What's up, guys? Today we're doing a new kind of video for you guys. We're going to go ahead and go over how I like to tune and set up my park board. We're going to be using a Hovland 5.0 board today, but this will work for any short park board that you got, whether it's from Hovland or another brand. And this is going to work really well for just a dedicated jib board, something you're only going to be riding in the park on rails, boxes, tubes, stuff like that. So we're going to go over how we like to do our edges for this board, and then we're also going to go over how we wax it and go over a couple little add-ons like grab rails and stuff at the end. So we're going to go ahead and get started for you, show you all the tools we're going to need today, and get into it. To start out, we're going to need a waxing iron. If you don't have one, don't feel like you need to go out and buy a fancy, expensive waxing iron, because these can get pretty expensive pretty quick. So if you don't have one, just go to your local thrift store and pick up an regular old clothes iron and just dedicate that to using for waxing, and it will work just fine. I used a clothes iron myself for years and years before I ever bought an actual wax iron. You're going to need some wax along with your board. This is the wax that we're going to be using today, but we'll go over that more in depth when we get to the waxing portion of the video. We're also going to need a couple files. I just like to use these flat files. We're also going to need a couple of these gummy stones. These are for taking off rust and burrs on your edge. So this gray one is really nice. It's a softer one for taking off rust, and these are really nice to keep in your car or wherever you store your gear, so you can take off any rust that accumulates on your edges as it dries out when you're done riding. Then we also have this sandstone bar and this blue gummy stone, and these are going to be nice for detuning your contact points on a brand new ski and for taking off any burrs that might end up on your edge after you edge the ski, or if you hit any rocks or anything like that. Lastly, we're going to need a scrapers. For wax, you're going to use one of these plastic scrapers. Alright, we're going to be getting into the edge tuning portion of the video. So we're going to be going over how we like to tune our edges for a park board. This type of tuning is going to work best for a dedicated jib board, something that you're only going to be riding on rails, boxes, tubes, things like that, because we are going to be doling part of our edge, so you definitely don't want to do this on an all mountain board or anything. This is just going to be for your dedicated park board. If you want to skip forward and go to just the waxing portion, feel free to skip ahead, but first we're going to go ahead and just go over these edges real quick. So if you don't know how you want to tune your edges on your park board, go ahead, stick around, and we're going to get right into it. I like to have my edges completely dull and rounded in between the trucks, because when you're doing board slides, this is where you're going to be. This is the most common place to catch an edge when you're doing board slides and lip slides. So I like to just completely round it off. It makes it a lot easier to do your grinds and make sure you're not going to catch at all. Again, the middle of your board isn't really engaging when you're doing a turn, so it's okay to have it nice and rounded. It's still going to be rideable, even if the snow is firm and icy. And to help out with that, we're going to leave our contact points up by the tip and tail nice and sharp. This is going to allow us to still have edge hold and be able to control our turns while still being able to have the rounded edge in the middle. So to start off with the edges, I like to go ahead and prep them with one of those soft gummy stones. This is going to go ahead and clear off any rust that's built up on your edges and just keep them healthier over time. This is going to help increase the life of your snow skate and just make it last longer overall and keep those edges in better shape. You can see these rust spots. These are what you're checking for along your edge. and eventually those will build into larger amounts of rust. So what you want to do is just take this gray gummy stone that we were talking about earlier, and you're just going to give it a nice little rub on there, and that is going to take that rust right off. And that's going to keep your edges a lot healthier over time. Anytime you see that rust, just take one of these gray gummy stones and just rub it on there. Get that rust all off the board. Moving forward, we're going to go ahead and show you guys more details about how we like to tune our edges. So we like to make sure that in between the trucks we have a rounded edge. This is going to help us with our board slides like we said earlier, and it's going to be able to make sure your edge isn't going to catch and throw you, whether you're doing a front board or a back board, lip slide, whatever you might be doing. It's going to help it slide a lot smoother so that if there's any bumps or sharp edges in the rail, it's not going to catch as easily. And then we're going to go ahead and leave the contact points of the ski. This is a part of the ski that's actually engaging during a turn. So by leaving those sharp, you're not really affecting your ability to do slides on rails or anything like that, but you are going to give yourself the benefit of still being able to have some edge control for turning. So this is a really nice way I've found to have a nice well-rounded jib board. It's going to be smooth for sliding but still have that control that you want when the snow is firmer or icy. To get this middle portion of the ski rounded on the edge, we're going to go ahead and grab that file we were talking about earlier, and you're just going to take this file and run it up and down your edge in between your trucks, and you're going to want to use moderate pressure with the file, and then make sure you're going at a pretty aggressive angle so that way you cut down the sharp edge of the ski and completely round it off. You're just going to keep going back and forth until you can run it over with your finger and look at it until that it's nice and smooth. We've already tuned this ski before, so we don't need to do too much work on it. Go ahead and just take a few minutes and go back and forth over the center of the ski with your file until it's completely rounded. Feel free just to go back and forth. Really just take off as much as you need to until it's nice and smooth and rounded. Now that we've got our center of the ski fully rounded and smooth, we're going to go ahead and grab that blue gummy stone, and we're going to go ahead and look at our edges, and if there's any little burrs of metal that you see sticking out from the edge that might get caught on a box or a rail, you're going to want to go ahead and use this blue gummy stone with a little bit of light pressure and just go back and forth over it a few times to take off any of those burrs. Alright, so that's going to wrap up the edge portion of this video. If you have any questions about the edges, go ahead and just drop a comment down below and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. We're going to go ahead and move on to the waxing portion. So we're going to go over what kind of wax we're using today along with the settings that we use for our iron, and then we'll get right into it. So you might be curious about what wax you should be using. We've just got some cold weather 1-ball J wax here today, but typically wax comes in different temperatures. You can get a generic all-temp wax, which is going to work relatively fine for any condition. If you're just cruising around, having a good time, riding park, kind of riding different conditions every week, definitely recommend just using something that is all temperature. Alright, and you might not know what temperature to set up your iron at, but we are going to go ahead and set ours up to 130 degrees Celsius today. That's what I've found kind of works best, not too hot, not too cold. Again, if you got a regular clothes iron from the thrift store or something, just set it to medium. You don't want it super hot, burning your wax off, but you also want it hot enough to still melt the wax. So we're going to go ahead and get everything set up, and we're just going to go ahead and melt the wax with the iron and drip it right along both edges on the ski, and then make sure to drip extra wax down the center of the ski. We want to make sure we get a pretty wide coverage, but you don't need a crazy amount of wax, so don't waste a whole bar of wax on one ski. You really don't need that much wax, so don't waste it. Don't need to use that much, just enough to get coverage on the ski. You're not looking to cover the whole ski with the wax right now. You just want to get a little bit of wax everywhere on the ski. If you want to conserve wax even more, you can just go ahead and rub the block onto the iron to heat it up a little bit, and then rub it along your ski to get a nice thin coat of wax on it, and go over the whole ski this way. And this will conserve you a little bit of wax, so that way you're not using too much. Once you've done this, you want to go ahead and slowly run your iron from tip to tail. Make sure you go in a straight line with your iron instead of circles. While circles might seem like the right idea to spread out the wax, if there's any scratches on your edges, those are going to get transferred onto your iron and then get transferred to your ski, and you're just going to be putting a bunch of circular scratches all along your ski, which is going to damage it and make it ride slower in general. So we don't want that. Just make sure you go tip to tail, and it's going to help out a lot. Here you can see as I move the iron away, you can tell the wax is all melted, and then after a few seconds it dries up and cools down. This is what you're looking for. You want it to stay melted just for a few seconds after you move the iron away. That way you know the wax is melting and penetrating into your base, doing its job. Otherwise, if it's staying melted for too long, you could be damaging the base by heating it up too much. And if it's not coming out melted at all, then you're not penetrating the heat deep enough, and the wax isn't actually bonding to the base. So you want to find that perfect middle ground where it's staying just melted a little bit but not too much. Now that we've got our wax all melted and ironed into our ski, you want to give it at least 20 to 30 minutes to cool down until it's completely cool to the touch. This way you make sure the wax is fully bonding and doing its job in the base. If you scrape it while it's still warm, it's not going to bond and do its job very well, and it won't last nearly as long. You can wait up to 3 or 4 hours if you really want to, and this is going to allow it to bond better. Now that we've got the wax on our board and we're ready to scrape it off, we're going to go ahead and just set it up somewhere sturdy. I usually just put it on the ground somewhere. If you have a workbench and some supports like for snowboards, you can put it up there, and that's going to give you some nice stability for it, but otherwise doing it on the ground is just fine as well. We're going to go ahead and grab that plastic scraper that we showed you guys earlier, and I like to hold mine with the thumbs in the middle, so that way you can push a little bit of pressure into it, and then you want to hold it at just a 45-degree angle. Once you have it held like this, you're going to go ahead and just push down and scrape away from you, and you're going to want to run over it as many times as you need with the moderate pressure until you get all of the wax scraped off of the ski, and just move from tip to tail going along like this until all of the wax is scraped away. Alright, that's pretty much it. That's how I like to tune and wax my park board. Just a couple little quick things before we end the video here. A couple little add-ons I like to put on all of my park boards is just a couple of grab rails for the toe and heel edge. These just help you lock into your grabs a little bit easier and just make it a little more comfortable to get your grab and give you a little extra grip to tweak it out as much as you need. And then on the top of the deck, I like to just add some of that Grip All Tundra grip. It's really nice for just having a little extra grip when the snow is real sticky and wet, so you don't have to worry about clearing off your board after every trick. That's pretty much it for this video. Hope I was able to help you guys out, and if you got any questions, go ahead and drop a comment below. Have a good one.